And this is so much about the moving landscape of action research and self-study. It's constantly moving in very unpredictable ways. I mean, Lee has delighted me in this last week saying, Joan, I don't do cycles. I do anti-lambdas. Right. And she's right. She's absolutely right. And she refuses to conform to other people's notions. She looks at herself and says, this is what's happening to me. And she can tell you why. And this notion of anything we do inside the classroom has to have an impact outside the classroom. And so the social action came into being. Right. Now, Omar, how am I doing with the question?
You want me to answer you now?
Yes, please. What have I left unanswered? That's what I want. It's such a constraint on time.
Yeah, it's just that the students are doing good work, you know, and you're doing better work.
No.
And I think it's best practices of the students, whenever they get to meet themselves as singular ones at different conferences, they can be confronted or bombarded with questions that may you know, put them on an easy spot. Your protection might not be there. And I feel, how do you go about empowering them, you know, with the type of questions that they will be posed, and you get nasty people in the society, you do know that, especially in the academy. And I mean, I've experienced that.
Okay. Well, I try not to protect. I try not to protect. I certainly try and make space. All right. Let us go back to would it help if I talked about what my influences be? Would that help you? I know it's not a direct way of answering your question, but I'm trying to get there. Okay. My influences come from self-study in its various different forms. Claudia Mitchell, it was, who used this wonderful expression in August last year that self-study is a broad church. And certainly within those broad churches, all of those things have fallen within my active experience. My other influences are these, that memory is the whole of man, and the whole of man is memory. And there are all sorts of biochemical implications there about genetics and about the body being the subconscious mind, which is the science of Candace Pert, and the notion of neuropeptide transmission. And then the notion of the body, mind, soul, which is indivisible, holistic, and please note there are two of those. One that comes from the indigenous knowledge of the First Nations people of the Americas, and one that is local from young Christian Smuts. And I am going to answer your question, Omar. Just hang with me, okay? When I have to ask myself what's going on, what am I doing, what position am I adopting to answer this notion of protection, I don't protect. I don't even try to protect. Because I ask myself, what makes me strong enough to cope? And it's this. What puts heart into my mind? And every single person, and these are the expectations that I have of the people in the team, to ask themselves the same questions. What puts heart into your mind? Into my mind, the plight of our planet. Nextly, the next thing that puts heart into my mind is the scholarly support. The kind that respects all people and research and always assumes the best in others. And I'm sure that you can see that one of the people who has influenced me greatly in this regard is Jack. You can see from the way he presented his keynote this morning. Generous, loving, inclusive, and encouraging. And finally, the last one, and this comes to your question, Omar. Any confinement, restriction, obstruction, obfuscation, bigotry, inequality, and injustice within the academy just encourages me to find an unassailable logic to address that, an argument that cannot be refuted. And if one thinks broadly enough and widely enough, one can always find an unassailable logic. And to go forward without an unassailable logic is to leave oneself unprotected. Does that help?
Yeah, I just want to say your students got a lucky professor. I mean, to be able to and I wish I had somebody that could hold my hand like you holding their hands. I'm envious about it. And what I want to say, good luck and thanks. Yeah.
Thank you. All right. You see, you've come to understand, please, Omar, I don't hold hands. But I have been incredibly blessed and fortunate by having teachers who toughened me up by not holding my hand and demanding of me an unassailable logic until I was able to create my own. Okay. Thanks. Right. These are the kinds of things that have really stopped me short in my tracks and made me think. Please, don't get me wrong, hey? I've come a long way. I've come a hell of a long way. I was schooled in the same sort of situation, the same sort of system as anybody else who's white and 64 and female in South Africa. Read it any way you like. That is me. And I have had to learn a lot. And look where some of my most significant learnings come from. This is from the parallel rhythmic recitatives of the rabbis of Israel. This is ancient stuff. I have a huge regard for the ancient oral traditions of the world, because the wisdoms therein are just jaw-dropping and breath-stopping. Look at this beautiful. And I learned from these 14 people and the other 45 back home. And sometime in 2009, I literally found myself writing this. I was literally battling with what's going on in our meetings on a Thursday and a Friday afternoon. What's going on? And I came up with this. I work on the assumption that people already know much of what they need to know, but that they're often unaware that they know what they know. And they become aware of what they know and how to use what they know by reflecting critically on their practice and from interacting with others. And every workshop that we have every single week, that maxim, that assumption, if you like, that conceptual underpinning, that theoretical framework, appears on our workshop program as a constant reminder that I'm encouraging everybody to work like that, and I'm encouraging everybody in the Sister Teaser group to work with their learners in the same way. Now, I'm not suggesting for a single moment that people already know everything that they know. No, they don't. But the point is this, I really do believe, and I have growing evidence of the fact, that sometimes we just assume that the learners are empty vessels. Much as we say we don't, we begin to behave contrary, as we say, it's a living contradiction. We believe, but we act differently. And a lot of it is rooted in the actual etymology of the word education, which is derived from the Latin ex ducere. And what it, you know, this just cropped into my mind. When I was doing my UED, which was about 45 years ago, I was told that the ex ducere was leading the learners out of darkness into light. May my lecturers be forgiven. Because in actual fact, it's not a question of leading the learners out of darkness into light. I interpret it differently. It's leading the knowledge out of the viscera of the learner into the light of consciousness. What Jack refers to as the embodied knowledge, the visceral knowledge. And you see, the hard science backs that up. Candace Pert's notion of neuropeptide transmission, the whole notion of molecular memory, the whole issue of the DNA and the genome, actually backs up the notion that we do bring knowledge viscerally. We're not conscious of it. Going back to Candace Pert, she says your body is your subconscious mind.